Tired of feeling stuck, unseen, or like your body isn't yours anymore? It's time for a reset. Welcome to An Ageless Life, the midlife reset show, where science, movement, and mindset help you feel strong, energized, and like yourself. I'm Devi, a clinical pharmacist, Argentine tango dancer and instructor, and your guide for redefining how women thrive and grow in midlife and beyond. Let's get started. Feeling stuck in midlife, don't know what you want, and here is a gentle place to begin. There's this particular kind of feeling that shows up around this time of year. It's not excitement, it's not dread, it's more of a quiet uncertainty that kind of sits in the background. You might catch yourself thinking, I really don't know what I want anymore. And maybe it's not just for next year, but in general. And if that thought's been floating around in your head, I want to say this right away. There is nothing wrong with you. This isn't a failure. It isn't you losing your edge. It isn't a lack of ambition. It's a transition. And transitions don't always feel loud. Sometimes they feel foggy. Before anything new begins, your body wants to be heard. And most of us were never taught how to listen. So today we're not setting goals. We're not fixing anything. We're just paying attention. In one of my recent episodes, we talked about why the spark fades, how motivation changes in midlife, and why the things that used to drive us and really excite us stop doing that. And in fact, sometimes they feel like a burden. Today is the next part of the conversation, which is because once we understand why it's happening, the next question is always, okay, now what? Here's what matters. Motivation changes in midlife, and these are not personal. They're biological. This is something I see happening over and over again with midlife women, women in menopause or postmenopause, women over the age of 50 who've spent years being capable, responsible, and reliable. And as your hormones shift, specifically estrogen, and then the dopamine, the chemical that's tied to that drive and reward that we get, it starts to work differently. That old motivation loop of this is urgent, I feel the pressure and the need for approval don't land the same way. And whether we call it midlife or menopause or just feeling off in your body, I know sometimes I say you feel like you've been inhabited by an alien. And the experience is often the same. What used to work doesn't. As your cortisol tolerance drops too, so managing through what used to be manageable now feels heavy. Your body is essentially saying, I'm not doing this in this way anymore. And because you're smart, capable, and used to functioning at a very high level, you probably ignored the early signs. Almost all of us do. Your body goes into that quiet before it revolts. And then the mind finally notices, panicking, saying, why aren't we motivated? What is wrong? What is happening here? And here's the thing. When things like this become tricky, especially around New Year's, we're told, get clear, make a plan, decide what you want. But clarity doesn't come from forcing the answers. It comes from noticing what's going on around you and noticing patterns. When you push for clarity before alignment, you end up recycling all those goals that you had that no longer fit who you are or where you are. That's why vision boards can feel oddly empty at this stage of life. You're trying to decorate a room, basically, that you've already outgrown. Here's the part that's hard to accept at first. Your body pulls the plug before your mind catches up. What feels like, I don't know what I want, is often, this no longer works. I no longer want to do this. I had a client come in and she said something I hear all the time. She said, I don't know what I want, but I know what I don't want. Then she asked, but how do I figure out what I want? What she was really describing was the overwhelm. It felt like trying to manage everything that was changing all at once. Her body, her energy, and what made her happy. She wasn't really confused. She was overloaded. And when we stopped trying to force answers and started noticing what drained her and what supported her, the fog began to lift. This is the in-between space, and this is where we get stuck and gets labeled as stuck. So if you think about it, the in-between place is you're not really stuck, you're in transition. So it isn't that you're stuck, it's that you're recalibrating. You don't need answers right now. You need better questions. Not what should I do next, but what drains me and what makes me feel alive and gives me energy, even if it's just a little. Midlife isn't about dramatic reinvention. It's about refinement. You've done a lot of work to get here. Small resets beat big declarations every time. So I have a little exercise, and I've talked about this before, but I think it's the perfect time to just talk about it again. And it's simple. And all you have to do is just think about the last 6 to 12 months. Think of it as you're observing the past. You're not judging it. You're just looking at what happened. And so you're going to make 2 lists. The first list is what consistently drained you. And this can be big. It can be food. It can be things you said yes to. It can be routines. It can be expectations. It can be the way that you've talked to yourself. But anything that drains you or gives you that knot in your stomach when you think about doing it. The second is what gave you even a small sense of ease or energy. Doesn't have to be joy, passion, just relief, a presence, a little bit of a breath of fresh air. And notice not what should be on the list, but what actually is on the list. So being very honest in how you label things and where you put them will make this exercise work even better. So this is not a to-do list. It's a listening exercise. If your body doesn't speak in logic, maybe it speaks in energy. Notice the times and the tendencies where you have more energy rather than less. And patterns tend to show up when you stop arguing with them. You don't have to wait, and you don't have to rush. I want to say something very important here. You don't have to wait for a new year to begin anything. And you also don't have to begin anything at all. There's no rule that says change only counts if it happens on January 1st. There's no requirement that it has to be big, dramatic, or perfectly planned. Sometimes the most meaningful shifts start small. One drain you soften. One boundary you recognize and keep. One thing you stop forcing yourself to do. One delight you let back into your life. It can be something small. It can be something simple. But what counts is that you did it. If you feel a pull to start now, trust it. And if you don't, that's okay. Rest can be the reset. Listening can be the beginning. When you enter a new chapter this way with awareness instead of pressure, everything changes. You stop chasing motivation and start looking at, how do I protect and reserve my energy to do the things that I want to do? You stop forcing clarity. You stop saying, I need to know right now what it is that want to do. Instead of forcing things, you start to rebuild the trust with your body. You start to listen because the body tells the truth. This is usually how momentum comes back, is quietly, without the big celebration. And you can think energy before ambition, listening before deciding. And in closing, you don't need a new year to give yourself permission. You don't need a full reinvention. And you don't need to know where this leads yet. You can start wherever you are. You can start with the smallest amount of energy that you have in whatever way that feels true to you. That's not falling behind. This is how real life change begins. And this is the conclusion of our episode for today. Please take with you this exercise that we look at with drains and delights. It is a game changer, and I wish you all the best. Bye for now. That's it for this reset. Thank you for spending this time with me. If today's episode gave you something to think about, I'd love to have you subscribe so you never miss what's next. And remember to grab your free gift, your midlife superpower, 5 simple power moves to feel like yourself again. The address for this is, or link is, anagelesslife.com/superpower. Thanks again. Bye-bye.